My name is Sophia Williams. My story is about my journey through the foster care and adoption system, a broken adoption based on child abuse and neglect. When I was 3, my mother had left me home alone. This was something that I was used to. But this particular day, I don't remember what led up to the events, but I do remember being taken out by some policemen. They came in and got me, my brother, and my infant sister. And I remember us being placed in the back of a police car and being taken down to the police station while they waited for, I believe it was a woman that ended up showing up basically to do whatever happened next. I don't quite remember what happened next, but within a week I know that I was in a foster home. It was scary being taken away by strangers. Obviously, I've probably had seen, shows or movies with cops or something to that extent, but I'd never had any dealings with them per se. And then the fact that someone was taking me out of my home and my mother wasn't home to know that I was being taken out of the home. It was traumatizing. So my first foster home, I was there for about 4 years. During those 4 years, I just remember a lot of sexual abuse, being humped on by the older boys in the home, being danced on provocatively, and my foster mom just being physically abusive and very verbally abusive, almost like a bully. I remember her sister that used to help her out with watching us. I told her that my teeth were loose in the front. Instead of her using the typical method to remove the teeth, I remember her punching my teeth out of my mouth. It's very sad that adults can manipulate the situations that are going on in their home when they're doing foster care, because if you read the records, it says that I was the aggressor in every situation, and I very vividly remember only being 3 years old. There were 10 and 9, I'm assuming because they were that much bigger than me, that were literally touching me and messing with me all the time. And come to find out, they were also forcing my brother to do things with them. But according to the records, it was me and my brother, and it wasn't. I got shots one time, and I remember crying, and she was teasing me with the older foster kids and making fun of me. I felt like a nuisance to her. She didn't really seem to really want me there or care about me being there, and she wasn't watching over me properly, which is how all the sexual assault kept taking place. I didn't feel any type of way because, unfortunately, rest in peace, my biological mom passed the end of August. But my biological mom, she never liked me and she never loved me. So she already had instilled in my head that nobody liked me and nobody loved me. So the foster mom's treatment didn't really make too much of a difference, coming from my biological mom that was already verbally abusive, and according to the records, which I don't remember, sexually abusive. And she thought I was a dark demon, and she used to say that at the visit. So the foster mom's treatment while visiting my biological mom, it was no longer a big deal. My biological mom barely wanted to talk to me at the visits. She pinched me to get me to not sit next to her because she didn't want my skin touching hers. I felt like I just wasn't meant to be here because nobody liked me, type of thing. And nobody loved me, because if my own mom didn't like me or love me, and my foster mom treated me like she didn't like or love me, obviously nobody liked or loved me. So I was adopted at 6. During that placement, I was sexually abused and molested by the older boys in that foster home, as well as physically abused by my foster mom and her sister that used to babysit me. I very vividly remember shortly after arriving there, she had made spaghetti, and I spilled some on her freshly mopped floors. She made me eat the spaghetti off of the floor for spilling it and lick it up for, making a mess on her floor. I was isolated from the world. I was starved, neglected in every way imaginable. I just remember most of my childhood being spent standing inside of a corner with my hands on my head like this all day. If I put my arms down or if I move, I'd get beat. I was forced to learn Bible scriptures and quote them back within an hour. If I missed a word, I would be beat and I'd not be allowed dinner that night or something to that extent. My entire childhood from the age of 6 until right before I turned 14 was just spent being beaten and starved and being thirsty all the time. It resulted in sneaking water out of the toilets. One time I stole candy because there was some candy upstairs in the bedroom, and this big old Coca-Cola jar that they put pennies in. They had candy in there, and I took some candy, and I guess she could hear me walking on the floor from downstairs, so she knew where I was. And she's like, did you steal some candy? And I'm like, no. And she ended up making me strip, and the candy I had put in my underwear, I was gonna sneak it. She used to make us come home from school and literally be on our knees kneeling for hours until about 9 o'clock at night, praying out loud, repeated prayers over and over again. And when she found that candy, she beat the out of me for stealing. Told me it was a sin and in the Bible, and disobeying your parents. Disobedient children don't live long. A lot of times I walked around hungry most of that adoption. There would be times when my adoptive mom would literally go to a restaurant and leave me in the van. It could be like a 90-degree day like today. Leave the windows down with a loaf of bread and a package of bologna while she ate inside of a restaurant with my adoptive father. Other times, it would simply just be her denying me food because I picked a particle up off the carpet, like pulled the carpet, a piece of carpet up. It could be simply because I missed a line. When I quoted back my Bible scripture, I forgot a verse. So with the water situation, because we weren't getting water every day, I would end up turning on the faucet. The bathroom was right behind their bedroom. So anytime we turned the faucet on, they would hear it. And it resulted in having to sneak water out of the toilet bowl. It was just like a lot of physical abuse and unnecessary punishments. I've been dragged down the stairs by my hair before. This particular day, I was on punishment, sitting in a corner at the top of the basement steps, which was adjacent to the kitchen. I told her I had to pee so many times. She would not let me go pee. I ended up peeing on myself. And when she found out I peed on myself, she dragged me down 2 sets of stairs into the basement, threw me into the basement refrigerator, and whipped me all over with a leather belt. Other times, I was put inside of a garage and made to sit on a crate, and then a bucket would be put out there. And that was a punishment where I would have to pee and defecate in the bucket. I've been slapped, punched, stomped. One time she thought that I cut up her church suit because I had been on punishment for like a month, standing in a dark attic in a corner. And she discovered that the hallway that leads up to the attic had her church suit and it had a snag. I told her I didn't do it. She told me if I kept lying that my punishment was going to be worse. I finally told her that I did do it. And then she asked me how I did it. I told her I did it with a bobby pin. She told me I had to have used scissors because it was a straight cut. I didn't even know where scissors were. We weren't allowed to do crafts. So I'm like, okay, well, I use scissors. She dragged me down the stairs of the attic, flung me into the bathroom, took my hair and just started cutting it all over, every which way. Told me, you cut my suit, I cut your hair. Threw me into the hallway after making me strip naked. Had my adoptive dad hold my arms. This lady that lived with her that was from the church hold down my legs. And my brother sit on my back and beat me with this gigantic plastic baseball bat. And I ended up wriggling loose while crying, and I got hit in the eye and ended up with a black eye. It mainly consisted of just being beat with belts all over, or this plastic baseball bat. When I faked the Holy Ghost one day because I got tired of being on my knees and praying for a week straight for hours with no food, I faked the Holy Spirit. And the next morning I didn't wake up speaking in tongues, so I got beat with an extension cord all over for that one. And then she made me go back to being on my knees and trying to force me to catch the Holy Ghost. The first time a report was made against my adopted parents was my adopted sister had black blisters on the backs of her hands. We used to get beat with plastic spatulas on the backside of the hands to cause more pain. A teacher saw the whelps going across, or the blisters, I should say, the black blisters going across her hand while she was playing outside at recess. They called CPS. CPS got involved for a few months. They dropped out of the case. I don't know what made them leave it alone, but they left it alone. 5th grade year, we had the junior achievement, or whoever those people are that come in and teach you about red flag, green flag, and all that stuff. They said the red flag, if somebody's punching you or beating you or hitting you, you need to report it. So me, I raised my hand because I'm being beat. And they told the principal, and the principal called my adoptive mom. So my adoptive mom came to the school, told them she from foster care. She got a lot of trauma and psychological issues. She's a habitual liar, and she lied. She took me home, told me, get in the house. I go through the door. She's behind me. I turn around to look at her. Whoop, right to my chest. Punched me dead in my chest. Lost my breath. Fell back on the stairs that were leading to the upstairs rooms. She punched me in my back. Get up the stairs. She punching me in the back as I'm going up the stairs. I get in my room. She knocks me down to the ground and just starts hitting me and stomping me. She's like over 200 pounds. Yelling at me, you're going to go to that school. You're going to tell them you're a liar. You're a chronological, habitual liar. Don't you dare ever tell anything that I do to you in this house. Long story short, I went to school the next day, told everybody I lied. I made it up. They dropped it, and they never reported it to CPS. A couple years after that, my younger adopted brother, who is now deceased, he had got on punishment because he cursed at her because she had been beating on him all day. He was only like 3, I believe. And she had been beating on him all day. So he cursed. He was upset, and she ended up whooping the out of him. We had a back deck area at the back of the house. She made him stand outside while she sat out there under the umbrella with my adoptive dad and the girl that lived with them. He ended up fainting because she did not feed him. She would not give him any water, and she had been beating him all day. With that being said, when he fainted, they called the ambulance. And when they called the ambulance, they ended up taking him to the hospital. And then they discovered all the bruises on his body. And then that's when CPS got re-involved. They didn't take us immediately. Instead, they started monitoring her. And I think this went on for about 1.5 years because I remember that she was just getting ready to sell her house in Grand Rapids, had bought a new house in Kalamazoo, and there was like a stop order that she couldn't leave with us while they were investigating. And then they ended up taking the stop order off and had everything transitioned to workers in Kalamazoo. And then we ended up moving down there. My brother got into it with my adoptive dad one night, and my adoptive dad attacked him. We woke up the next morning. My brother was gone. A week later, we got a voicemail. They came and picked us up. So I went back into foster care at 14. Nice church lady, very sweet, very kind. My birthday was literally, I think, like a month after I got with her. I turned 14, and she actually brought home a whole bunch of clothes for me, brand new. I wasn't used to them. So this foster mom made sure that I felt special on my day and surprised me with a bunch of clothes. But she was very old school. So I don't think she understood that I had been isolated and imprisoned during my adoption. Like, we weren't allowed to go outside and play. I didn't even know how to ride a bike until I was 12. So once I got in this foster home and she told me, go outside, have fun, be a kid, I was outside all the time. Unfortunately, the neighborhood, it was in the hood, and there were a lot of girls that were out there and, you know, were overly developed, etc., that I ended up, you know, connecting with because they were the only girls in the neighborhood, and I hung out with them a lot. So her assumption was that I was being fast, which in the African American community means being promiscuous, looking for male attention. And based on the records that were lied upon by my first foster mom, she just assumed that I was a sexually aggressive young lady. So when her biological son and his cousin sexually assaulted me, I never told her. One day she was at church or work or something to that extent. Her son was saying something nasty to me. I'm laughing, giggling it, brushing it off. His cousin is there. He's making comments. I run up the stairs like I'm going to my room. They both chased me up the stairs. They kind of like tripped me. I had on a button-up black and white checkered outfit. They basically pulled it apart and they both put their mouth on my chest. I never told her because she already was calling me promiscuous, calling me fast. One time when I sprained my ankle, she told me that's what you get for being fast, running the streets. So I'm like, I'm definitely not going to tell her this, but she don't even care that I sprained my ankle. During my time in this foster home, I had met a boy on my way home from high school one day. He became my boyfriend. One day he told me to follow him to his house or that I could come over. And I went to his house. Me being young and naive and being sheltered, raised in the church. He told me he had something for me in his room. I believed him, so I followed him in his room, and I ended up being raped. So I lost my virginity by rape. So I ended up acting out a lot, breaking curfew because I just didn't want to be around him. It was awkward, and she ended up putting me out. All of the sexual abuse and sexual assault that I was subjected to as a kid, it definitely affected me as a grown woman. Unfortunately, I'm very distant when it comes to relationships with men that I'm supposed to be in a relationship with. I don't really like touch. I don't like cuddling. I don't like kissing. Honestly, it's more or less of I got what you want down below, so take that and leave me alone type of thing. There is no emotional connection. And I know that's also in my records. They said that when I first got adopted, that I told them that men were bad people and that they beat women. So I already had a negative perspective of men at 3 years old. So I don't know if my biological mom was being abused in front of me. But they said that they could tell that it had been a lot of sexual trauma already at 3. So today as a woman, I have a hard time staying in relationships because they say that I'm not affectionate. I'm not emotionally available the way that they want me to be, and they can't touch me. So I met my second oldest son's father when I was 19. A friend from work had connected me with him. She told me about 2 guys. I thought I was dealing with the guy that was in college to be a lawyer or something, but I actually was with the guy that had just did 6 years in prison for armed robbery and home invasion, not knowing that until after we met. And he was fresh out of prison. He had muscles and tattoos, and I was young, and I ended up messing with him pretty early, within the month, and I got pregnant. I was going to abort the baby because I didn't really know him, and I didn't want to have a baby by somebody I barely knew. He begged me to keep the baby. He told me that he wanted to be with me, etc. He ended up breaking up with, I call her my son's stepmom because she ended up having his son after he passed. He ended up breaking up with her and coming in with me. He was mean. I'm just going to keep it 100. That's one of the meanest men I have ever dealt with in my life. Very condescending, would literally make me cry and then curse me out and yell at me about crying. But he was making me cry. He was cheating on me. I'm at work, I'm pregnant, I'm big. He's taking my car, picking up girls, cheating on me. I'm getting up in the middle of the night while pregnant to pick him up from different people's houses, and he's meeting me out in the, parking lot of apartment complexes, telling me that he wasn't doing anything. I got tired of it. I got tired of him not pulling his weight, living with me, because I didn't have Section 8 or subsidized housing. Like, I worked full time and took care of myself. And I'm like, you need to contribute. And he ended up leaving me because he did not want to pay his half of the rent. I had my son November 22nd. He left me the day after Christmas. He told me, you better take the shoes back I bought you for Christmas and put it towards your rent, and left. Very verbally aggressive and hostile up until he was murdered the day before my son's birthday. Basically, I guess it was a exchange that took place, but it was actually a setup for some dealings of which he had done somebody wrong some months prior. They got somebody to set him up, and they shot and killed him in his car. So he was found with his head down on the steering wheel, shot in his vehicle. I didn't find out until I went to pick up my son that night. I guess it had happened a few hours before, but everybody was in such shock and disarray that nobody reached out to tell me. They had his funeral about a week later. Went to his funeral, and his mother and aunt was involved for a while, but it was so much drama dealing with them. They were so disrespectful and just rude and mean, and I just couldn't take it. So I separated myself and my son from them. I didn't want them growing up around that. My son's grandfather stepped in probably about 6 years ago. He stepped in more than what he was in the past because he had moved to Tennessee for a while. He actually got murdered last February, and that was the only person he had on his dad's side. So now it's just me and him. He has me. And he does have my oldest son's grandmother and aunt. I've always just wanted to be accepted. So unfortunately, that just led to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of more abuse, more verbal abuse, a domestic violence situation that I was in before I got married. And it was just like, if anybody showed me any type of attention or made it seem like they cared, I don't know if they do, if they don't, because nobody ever did. So I'm going to take your word for it. And now I got somebody in my life. It's not just me and my kids. It's somebody else, and they got a family. So now I kind of got a family because this is my boyfriend and his family likes me. And it was just like a lot of bad decisions have been made with that anxiety and that depression. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Every other week, my thoughts are just that I don't want to be here because I don't feel loved. I don't feel like I have anybody outside of my kids, my foster mom, my godmom, my god sister, like real love, like make me feel included type of love. And to be rejected after finding my bio mom and mistreated by her all over again as an adult when I took her in and found 3 of her kids and brought them to her, that hurts. To find my bio dad, who has not reached out or called me at all since my mom died in August after I moved to Houston to be near them, that hurts. So all I know is hurt. All I know is rejection and abandonment. Like, this is something I'm used to. So a lot of people that I've reconnected with on Facebook as I'm going through this divorce and I can now breathe again and I'm not in a little narcissistic prison, I see pictures and I see names and I have this one flashback memory because my memory is so messed up from all the trauma. I can barely remember good times with anybody because there's been so many bad times. And I detached myself from them and I don't even know why. I don't even know how I stopped talking to these people. I don't know how I don't have their number anymore. I don't know how I'm not still hanging out with them and still friends with them, because in my mind, you're going to end up leaving or you're going to end up not liking me. So I think like I just disappear and then I come back and then I disappear because that's just my cycle of life. I've been in therapy. I've been in counseling. I remember one counselor told me, wow, that's a lot. And she kind of withdrew herself. Like, it overwhelmed her and she did not want to be my counselor. But right before we moved to Michigan, back to Michigan from our 2 years in Houston, I got a therapist. That therapist transformed a lot of my mindset. And I was only seeing her for a few months. She was a Christian based, and I went for that on purpose. And the way that she talked to me and her face when I told her all the things I've been through, the fact that she stayed with one face and did not seem to let it attack her inside, allowed me to really listen to her and know that she wasn't looking at me in any type of weird way or this is too much, you got too much going on, because I've been told that so many times, and she didn't make me feel that way. So she's actually the reason why, or part of the reason I feel like I am thriving right now while going through a divorce, losing my mom, moving back to Michigan with 5 kids. She literally told me, you have got to figure out how to make yourself happy and do what's best for you and stop worrying about everybody else making you feel like they care about you. When do you start to care about you? I would say my advice to anybody dealing with any type of trauma, whether it stems from biological or from the system, is to learn to love yourself first. My biggest mistake in this lifetime, and the reason why I sit here and I cry from time to time, is because I never loved myself enough to avoid some of the situations that have created lifelong consequences and situations for me. I feel like when you love yourself first and you start to understand your value and your worth, nobody can take advantage of you. Nobody can mistreat you. Nobody can convince you to do something that you don't want to do, because you know who you are. And a lot of times with childhood trauma, you don't get the opportunity to learn who you are because you're fighting for survival every day of your life. That all you know is to be angry, have an attitude, watch your back 24/7. You never get the chance to just relax and discover what makes you happy. So love yourself first and embrace a journey where you do a little bit of everything until you learn what that one thing is that truly brings you immense joy and satisfaction. And for me, it's writing. Dealing with a bout of depression years ago, 2013. I sat down and I just started writing out the events of my life. Like I came up with the timeline from when I was born up until, and I ended up with like 96 pages worth of stuff. And I'm like, this is a book. So I started looking up publishing companies and things, and I ended up connecting with an Oklahoma publishing company called Tate Publishing, and I submitted my story. I decided on a title called I'm Good. My will to do better tomorrow than I've done today is really based on my 5 kids. I have 1 daughter. I have 4 boys. My oldest son just turned 18, graduated high school with honors. He just came back from a Christian camp. My children are artists. Like most of them, 3 of them can draw so well. And just to know that I'm raising kids different than the way I was raised, and to be able to give them what I never had is like one of the most beautiful experiences. And that was actually my goal, which is why I started having kids so young, because I knew that I didn't have family. So if I ever passed, I wanted my kids to have each other.